Hello. Well, it's been a while, and I've been on a long journey. Too long. And finally, I've managed to get myself settled. So now that I am settled, I thought I'd make a video. Something to do. It's Saturday night. And I haven't made one in ages, and I used to love the live streams. It was so cool. It was so much more enjoyable than making the videos because there's so much work involved in the videos, and sometimes you don't actually get any interaction with the live. It was great, and I thought I was just chatting to my mum on the phone. I said it was Saturday night. I'm a bit bored. I don't know what to do. Should we make a video? I said, oh, there's so much work. Should we go live? And I thought, okay, I'll have a glass of whiskey. I'll have a glass of whiskey and I'll go live. And I don't know what I'm going to talk about, and I don't know what it's going to entail. But regardless, I just thought press the live button and see what happens, and see where we go and what I can talk about. I know there's probably absolutely no one watching, but maybe you might pick it up later if I don't delete it, that is. Now, I've been on a long journey, probably been on the road for 18 months. And let me see if I can share this link so I can try and get a few people on. Let me see. There we go. Let me have a look. Who can I share this with? So what I'm doing is I'm just sharing the YouTube link for the live. See if anyone's about, and see if anyone's online. I don't know. Let me see what Lloyd thinks. So, yeah. I've been on the road for, God, it must have been 18 months. And I went loads of places. Dubai, Thailand, Milan, Barcelona, UK, Ireland, Spain. But it all sounds good, and it all sounds glamorous. But let me tell you, when you've been on the road for such a long period, it becomes a real chore, a real pain in the ass. And I couldn't wait for it to end. So this whole digital nomad lifestyle, it's good in principle, but before long, you sure as hell want your base. You sure as hell want somewhere to stick your toothbrush, where you know it's going to be. So yeah, eventually, after 18 months, I finally found somewhere to live in Portugal, at least in Lagos. It's really, really difficult to find a long-term accommodation, as most other places in Europe, especially Portugal and Spain, is that they've just been hammered by Airbnb and tourism. So it's really difficult to find a place to live long-term here, because a lot of the accommodation is just for tourists. So you can get winter lets, you can get short-term lets, but finding a long-term rental is like finding rock and horse shit. But eventually I did, thanks to Matt, a friend of mine, and he gave me this apartment, and I finally settled in. Took me a good 2 months. Turn this heater off. Getting cold here now. Unbelievably. Even though I still like to wear t-shirt and shorts as much as I can, and sandals, is that even my English constitution that can handle the cold, I started to wear tracksuits in the daytime now. Tracksuit top, still wear the shorts. But I've even got the blow heater on, which reminds me of home. So yeah, I finally found a long-term place to live, and this is it. got a studio set up, which is the first time I've had anything permanent set up in a long, long time. And when you're making videos, you don't realize how important it is to have consistency. And to have consistency, you've got to set your shit up and leave it set up. If you're constantly having to set it up, or the quality of what you do set up is no good, you don't want to make a video. You don't want to do much in relation to trying to be creative. It just turns into a chore. And that's why, chatting to my mum before, she said, just press the button. She said, just press go live. She said, don't worry about it. Don't plan anything. Don't prepare anything, and see what happens. So I did. I had a glass of Glenlivet. I've become a whiskey connoisseur. We may well talk about this incredible Aquavita, water of life. There's something to chat about. I can see that there's one person watching. I don't know who it is. If whoever you are, write a comment in the chat. Let me know that you are watching it. I'm not sure who it is. Maybe it's Lloyd. Maybe it's Terry. I don't know. So yeah, finally got this damn thing set up, and felt like I wanted to do something on a Saturday night because I wasn't going out. I had Donnie for a week. Donnie's gone home to his mum. So, here you go. Here he is. I knew it was Lloyd. I don't know how to comment back, but yeah. Hello. Oh, it's Vinny as well. Oh, a few people have joined in. Yeah, so don't know. We've got no intention. Got no plan or anything. I'm just improvising a session. If you just want to ask any questions about anything to help me through the live stream, be sure as hell ask me some. I've got 5 watches already. Well, that's quite cool, isn't it? So yeah, just decided that I wanted to make some content because I used to love the live stream. The live stream was the best. It was fun. It was always good interacting with people. And, oh my God, someone's even sent me money. Up the Scousers from Dublin, Ireland. Unfortunately, I have absolutely mangled that Irish word and I'm not even going to try. But thank you so much for a little comment there. Yeah, so I want to talk about everything except politics because I find that to be the most depressing, most boring topic imaginable. But I guess inevitably at some point it may well come back into the sphere. But if, one of the beauties of being in Portugal is that I can't speak the language. And if I can't speak the language, I can't follow the propaganda or the politics. Although I do pick up a little bit, to be fair. Yeah, I do pick up a little bit. And I'm really happy that I'm not subjected to the hellhole propaganda that is being forced upon my brethren in England and UK. It sounds like it's a really bad time to be under Starmer's rule back home. But I'm happy that I'm not subjected to that at the moment. And it's good to be a bit of a goyim. Am I allowed to say that? Shit. No, what was interesting is that I noticed recently, it was about, it must have been about a month ago, YouTube came out and admitted publicly that they had indeed censored content creators during COVID. Not only censored the information, but also banned episodes and banned channels. And I was subjected to that. And let me tell you, it was really, really difficult. It was intense mind games that they would play. It's because you'd put this enormous amount of effort into creating a podcast or whatever it was, and then it just wouldn't get any traction. It began as getting traction, then it slowly began to fade. And I just couldn't figure it out. And obviously my instincts were to think it was YouTube censoring us, but the way they do it, they make you sound like you're paranoid. So I'd message YouTube support and say, "What the hell's going on here? Why is this? All of a sudden, my channel collapsed for no good reason. I wasn't getting any traction at all. It would be really frustrating." And they would say, "No, no," as if we would do something like that. "We value all of our content creators. You're just another wonderful content creator for us." And then it came out. It came out about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, that yes, we admit that during COVID, we censored content creators. And it was a vindication in a sense, because I realized you're not going mad. But at the same time, I was pretty pissed off. But I think Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones both tried to, because YouTube said, "Oh, please come back to the platform. Please come back to the platform. We'll let you broadcast." And because I think they must have been hemorrhaging content creators of value, the people who were creating original, interesting stuff. They were losing them to X, I guess, maybe Rumble. Well, who the fuck goes on Rumble, right? So they felt the urge, the need, the desire for some reason to make a public statement, trying to draw content creators back and admitting. Now, I don't know why they would admit that, because it doesn't do them no favors, because now it's proven what our suspicions were correct. Of course they were. We knew we were being censored, and they admitted it. But it was very demoralizing. Let me tell you, it was really, really demoralizing. And they knew it was demoralizing. That was the tactic. That was the tactic, to make you think as if it was you. So, yeah, that was a really good bit of truth that came out of the system. Gave me a buzz anyway. I don't know if you guys seen that, but it's good to see some comments in the chat. Agitators dressed as Antifa. Talmudic Starmer and Talmudic Sunak, of course. We know who controls those guys, for sure. I spent a little bit of time back on X, because I've gone off social media, switched it off. Doesn't do me any favors. Wasting time, doom scrolling, getting sucked into the bullshit politics, you know the score. And I come off it completely. It was a great thing to do, and I advise everybody to have at least some period of the year in which you switch off. You switch off from being plugged into the matrix, from being plugged into the simulation, from having to experience the propaganda full blast all the time. It's definitely good, because social media is like 24/7. But I did go back on recently under a sock account on Twitter. It's gone now. I'm not going to tell you which one it was. But it's funny when you do a sock account. I haven't really done many, but I've done a few over the years. Because it's not you. Because it's not your face. Because it's not people recognizing your reputation, I guess, or your persona, is that you're free to speak without a filter. And sometimes you need a filter. You definitely need a filter sometimes, right? And but at the same time, it's like you're allowed to speak truly honestly through a sock account. And I think maybe I spoke a little bit too honestly, and I got sucked back into that whole like major struggle that our people are currently subject to. And it was a good little blast. It was a good little period, but again, it takes up so much of your emotional, spiritual energy if you do it and you're committed that I had to come off again. I got banned a couple of times by Musk even as well. Let me just invite another friend on here. So there's another chat here. Have I heard about there we go. Heard about Cornwall being the first place to strongly oppose digital ID. I sure did. I sure did. Now, I don't know how much political power Cornwall has, although Cornwall is one of the 7 Celtic nations that, for some, seek independence from control of the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is not England, of course. It's almost like a supranational entity like the EU, and designed to suppress the native people of these islands using the political tools that they do. But there is something called the 7 Celtic nations. I'll see if I can remember them. There's obviously Cornwall, Isle of Man, Ireland, Scotland, Galicia, maybe. I think Galicia is one as well. Maybe England. I don't know. But for sure, Cornwall has a very distinct nationalist identity. But how much say they have in terms of whether they can oppose digital ID remains to be seen, because if it's a national, if it's created through primary legislation, the UK is a constitutional monarchy under parliamentary sovereignty, which means that Parliament is sovereign, and through primary legislation, each government can change the law to whatever they want using primary legislation. When we say Parliament is sovereign, it means that no government is bound by the laws or diktats of the previous government. If they have a majority big enough, they can create primary legislation about anything. Now, obviously, if it's too extreme, there is rebellion on the backbenches. But when you have a majority like Starmer, what is it, 80 or more than 80? I can't even remember. But he has such a big majority, he's able to push through these authoritarian protocols and agendas because of the UK system of primary legislation under sovereignty of Parliament. So even if Cornwall vote against it, if it becomes primary legislation, it means it's the law of the land, and they'll have to comply. This is why the people who run England and UK understand how our parliamentary system works. If you don't understand that, then there's nothing down for you. This is how this is when they want to bring in a huge change in the agenda, they know they need a massive majority, because the massive majority allows them to push through primary legislation that wasn't even included in the manifesto. Digital ID, huge policy. What, do you just pull that out of a hat? It wasn't in the manifesto, right? Obviously, it was, that was what he was brought in to do. But they didn't tell the electorate, of course, that that's what it was. But regardless, it doesn't matter because of the ginormous majority. So Starmer doesn't care whether he's hated or not. While he has that majority, and he is able to whip the MPs in Parliament to vote how he wants them to vote, he doesn't care. He can just run it like a dictator. That's the thing, is that people need to understand how the UK system works, because they do. So Starmer got in on a huge majority with a lower vote than Corbyn. I think something like only 20% of the people voted for him, but they understand how first past the post works. And when they want a big majority, they ensure that the previous party, the previous ruling party, the Tories, who were in for 14 years of slime, sleaze, and scandal, are mired in such corruption, and they make the corruption public because they want the public to be outraged and demand for the Tories to be kicked out of office, that they can manipulate the electorate to the point where that they can almost guarantee a big majority, regardless who the opposition was. Because who the hell would vote for Starmer in a normal situation? The only reason people voted for him because they wanted rid of the Tories. And that's how Blair was able to get his huge majority. Because who were we kicking out? The Tories under John Major, Thatcher, all that crew. Right? The country was, had enough and wanted rid of them. And Tony Blair was able to get an enormous majority, enabling him to transform the country through primary legislation that no one was able to resist. Change the courts, change the constitution, change the fact that, our final court of appeal in the UK was the House of Lords, and the House of Lords was connected to the common law, was connected to the Magna Carta. For the entire history of England, 1,000 years or more, the House of Lords was the final court of appeal. And it had to act upon precedent. But Blair, through his majority, was able to sever the ties between the people, Parliament, and the final court of appeal by creating the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court superseded the House of Lords by connecting it to the EU and the ECHR. Now, Blair would not have been able to do that without a huge majority. So they manipulate the electorate in order to be outraged at the incumbent government to such levels of corruption that even dyed-in-the-wool Tories voted for Tony Blair because even they had had enough. That's how they do it. And that's how they've done it with Starmer. I said I wasn't going to talk about politics. Sorry, guys. Yeah. So, in other news, I've been traveling quite a bit. Went to Dubai a few times, and it was the last place on earth that I thought I'd ever visit. And it's the last place on earth that I thought I would like. And even though I arrived with many prejudices, I was forced to tip my hat to how they run their system there and what they've created in such a short amount of time. This may piss off a few people. I can only tell you my experience. And there's a lot we can learn from how they're running their system over there. There's a lot we can learn. Because they have mass immigration. They have like tons of people from all over the world, but they are completely peaceful. There's no crime. There's no violence. And they do it through a really genius system of, maybe it's not genius, maybe it's how we've always done it, except for the last 60 years. Maybe it's, the last 60 years is the exception to the rule, and that, we've been running our countries quite serenely and sanely before that. But what the Dubai people say is that you don't get given citizenship in Dubai. You'd have to be, an Emirati. You'd have to be an Arab. You have to be from that country before you can be considered for citizenship, or maybe marry into it, or maybe live there for 30 years. But they do not give out citizenship willy-nilly. Citizenship meaning you can, vote. There's no voting in Dubai, by the way. It's an absolute monarchy. An absolute monarchy in which the king protects his people. Right? You may not agree with that. You may not agree in how he does it, but that's kind of definitely what he does. Right? And then everyone else is there on a work visa. So, yeah, immigration is needed and wanted in Dubai, but you're there on a work visa. So you're there to work, you're there to contribute, you're there to get the benefits and the privileges that they offer. And if you don't play by the rules, they kick you out. No messing. No messing at all. You're gone. In UK, obviously, by design, it's the opposite, isn't it? It's the opposite in which we are handing over territory. And remember, it's always a battle of territory. Whoever controls the territory controls the country. It's always about the land, because we live on the land and we produce from the land, and who controls the land and who controls the laws of the land controls the country. And what's happening in the UK is that we are just giving out willy-nilly citizenship to people who have got their own ideas. They've got their own ideas about how they want to do things. They've got their own ideas about conquest. Fair enough. It's our fault for giving it out in the first place. But yeah, so I was really quite surprised by that, and I was interested in how I was able to view something differently than what I had preconceived ideas about. And don't get me wrong, it's a plastic materialist. All those things are evident. Yeah, it's just about the money and about the oil wealth, but there's still an actual interesting undercurrent there as well. It's definitely, and there's an energy and a like an entrepreneurial spirit that is interesting for sure. Whereas in England, it's the entrepreneurial spirit is being crushed, and that's what we were known for. We were known for our entrepreneurial spirit. It's that we created so many things in the world, in the culture, because that was, the English identity. And now it's being squashed and crushed by communists, deranged leftists, taxing us to death, regulating us to death, and slowly squeezing the life out of the country like a boa constrictor, slowly but surely. So let's see if anyone's got anything to say here. So yes, of course, because it exists primarily as a pressure release valve, but equally a demoralizing echo chamber whilst the status quo remains. Haven't really used X this year, got angry over stuff. Yeah, it's definitely good at making you angry over stuff, for sure. Maybe that's part of the plan. Maybe that's, But it's to be fair, though, when I was like, I was trolling, so when I was trolling anonymously on X, it definitely felt like the pendulum was swinging back in our favor to some degree. It felt like we were making progress in having our voice heard, having our identity recognized, or at least put on the table as a marker, whereas previously it wasn't even acknowledged. So it definitely felt like that, but it was, it was a all-consuming, emotionally and spiritually, is you have to be committed and do that full blast all the time. Rupert Lowe, can't deny he's a great figure. I love the fact that he just speaks his mind, and obviously he gets attacked by the left and he gets called all the usual names that you'd imagine he does. But I never thought I'd be so inspired by, one, an MP, and two, a former chairman of Southampton Football Club. And he proves how much damage that we can do with just one man. One man in Parliament, just one. Imagine if we had 10 Rupert Lowes, 100 Rupert Lowes, 300 Rupert Lowes, which is why they keep us out of Parliament, of course. And somehow he was able to slip in. And now he's just a wrecking ball. He's a wrecking ball for the regime propaganda, the regime agenda, because the way that they control the narrative is by extinguishing all voices that are counter to the narrative. That's the primary method of propaganda. Propaganda can't exist when there are two voices with opposite ideas. And this is what Lowe is doing, regardless of what you think of him. he is giving it a literal counter narrative, because when you have two opposing ideas, then you use your own agency and sovereignty to make a choice. But without having the two ideas, you can't make a choice, which is why they remove it. Because you got two sides of the argument then, and you can decide, which one for you represents the truth, your interests, how you're experiencing the simulation. So yeah, I've got a lot of respect for him. Thought he was a pretty awesome character, awesome figure. Yeah. Tony Blair, Institute for Global Change. He still never went away, but continues to perpetuate global hegemony under a new alias. Well, the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change is the shadow government. That is the shadow government in the UK, or the deep state. Obviously, it goes a bit deeper than that. But this is how Blair pulls the strings behind the scenes. In some ways, he is the shadow prime minister. Not shadow prime minister, because that's what the other side is, but like the king behind the scenes. He is funded by Larry Ellison. And Larry Ellison is the CEO of Oracle. Oracle's like one of the original Silicon Valley tech companies. It's been around a long, long time. It does a lot of the back end of major bureaucratic software systems. It does like major hotels and major government bureaucracies. It's huge. And Larry Ellison is the rich. I think he's just pipped Musk as the richest man in the world. I think he's just pipped him. And apparently Musk is a protege of Larry Ellison. And when Musk was facing some heavy pressure, I think when he was buying Twitter, and there was a big attack upon Musk's assets, Larry Ellison said, we can't let Musk go down, and came in to support him. I don't know whether that's true, but that's what I read. And Ellison is hugely influential. He is one of the main financial supporters of the IDF, the Israeli shipbag force. But he pumps in millions into the IDF, and he is the prime funder of Tony Blair's Institute for Global Change, which employs 800 people. Huge. That's more than there are MPs, 650 MPs. And he is obviously pulling the strings of Starmer. When Blair came to power in 97, if you remember, it was Peter Mandelson that brought him to power, because John Smith was the leader of the Labour Party. He succeeded Neil Kinnock in the mid-90s. Kinnock lost the election, all that shit, and John Smith took over. John Smith was the Scottish Labour MP, and he died in unusual circumstances. I think he was out fell walking and he had a heart attack. All of a sudden, the space was open for Blair. And Peter Mandelson, who is Blair's handler, and Peter Mandelson is literally the agent of Nathaniel Rothschild, literally. That Blair, for some reason, was selected. He was selected because, it's just such a shame he's so evil, because he's such a brilliant mind, and he is such a brilliant orator. And it's so disappointing that he's chosen the side he's chosen to fight on rather than the others. Well, I don't know. But anyway, he was selected from whatever means, brought to power by Peter Mandelson, who, showed him off in the Labour Party. And he was, bopping around John Smith. And then John Smith died, a vacancy appeared, and Blair filled it. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. And Mandelson ushered in the New Labour project with Blair at the helm and transformed the UK. Totally transformed the UK. One of Blair's pet projects from the moment he was in office up to today is ID, is forcing the British people to have ID. And he's been pushing this since 1997. Clearly, that was one of the tasks he was charged with by whomever his backers are. I think we know who his backers are. It's not rocket science, is it? You don't have to got to be a genius to figure that one out. So Blair has been pushing since 1997 to force ID upon the British people. Why? What is it about ID that he's got such a hard-on for? Why is he committed to 30 years of his life to pushing through ID? They've got ID in the EU. I got pulled by the police the other day and they asked me for ID. I said, I haven't got any ID. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I don't carry ID. He said, well, have you got your passport? I said, yeah, but don't carry it. He said, well, we want to know who you are. I said, I've just told you who I am. What are you going to do now? and they had to let me go. But England, there's a book that you should read called Britain at the Centre of World History. It's written in the 50s. Too esoteric for me to go into now. But England's history is extraordinary. And there is something about these islands that whomever it is that's currently in power wants to crush. They want to crush the British people. They want to crush our history, our laws, our traditions, our culture, because our freedoms are enshrined in our incredible legal system, the common law. Common law doesn't assign ID. An Englishman is free. But why do they care? Why do they care so much about this little island? This little island of 60 million people, 70 million people. So Blair tried when he first came into office with ID, failed, because he's up against 1,000, 2,000 years of tradition and a psyche and a DNA of a people that just push back, just resist. He tried and he failed. Then he tried again during COVID with the COVID passports. That was just another attempt to shoehorn in digital ID. He was fucked off with that too. Because it was Britain that led the pushback against COVID. It was Britain that broke the dam. The protests were building each week in London to the point where the government just had to fold. And once England folded, everywhere else folded after it. So it was the resistance of the British people that broke the dam of COVID. And then everyone in the world followed. So he failed again on the vaccine passports. And now this is his next attempt, which is the digital ID, which is a lot more serious than the other two. Because as you know, they want, to be able to control you through a digital ID, which is not about identification. It's about controlling your credits, what you do within the system, the privileges. Because, in prison, how they control the prison population is that they give them privileges. And those who misbehave have their privileges revoked. And when they have their privileges revoked, it's a punishment. They put into solitary confinement, or they don't get, as much credit that week, or whatever. And that's the plan with digital ID. It's to turn the country into an open prison. That if you don't behave how the government want you to behave, then you will have your privileges revoked through digital means. Your access to money, your access to services will be determined by your behavior. And the English, the Scottish and the Irish, when I say the English, just because I'm English, right? But I mean the British. And I mean the Irish and the British as well, in case there's any Irish listening. Because they want to destroy the Irish as much as they want to destroy us. The Irish even more so. I mean, look what's happening in Ireland. It's a major point of attack. But yet, that's what the digital ID is about. It's another attempt by the Prince of Darkness, Tony Blair, with the one task he's been charged with that he has failed to deliver on so far. He's delivered on all of the others. Wars, illegal wars, supporting tin pot dictator regimes in Africa, doing whatever his controllers tell him to do, starting mass immigration, mass uncontrolled illegal immigration into the UK. Flood the gates were opened by Blair. All of these things he succeeded in, but he's failed with the ID. And I think he'll fail again. Like the commenter said, Cornwall has already resisted it. Cornwall is an ancient place with ancient people, 10,000 years or more. The Cornish people have lived on that little stretch of land. It's deeply, deeply encoded in our DNA, whatever that is, in our psyche, in our spirit, in our way of understanding the reality we find ourselves in. We're not an easy people to beat. So I think he'll fail again. That's my take on it. Ulster is Irish. I'm not going to argue with you. The English are Irish. The English get a bad press, man. They really do. They think the English are British, but we're not. Britain, right, as we understand Britain, it's not ancient Britain. Britain is an entity, is a legal entity like the Federal Reserve. You think it's part of the Federation, it's not, it's a private company. Or the Bank of England. We think it's the English National Bank. It's not, it's a private company. United Kingdom and Britain is the same thing. It's a private entity run from the City of London. A bit like Israel. The English people are like the Palestinians, being oppressed, subjugated by the British City of London central bank oligarchy. And we get tarred with their same brush, unfortunately. But the English definitely get a bad press. We get lumped in with all that shit. I used to be anti-English until I realised that was just part of the scam. Now I make sure that I identify as English as much as I possibly can because I know it pisses off the right people. It just absolutely triggers all of the right people. My name, Easman, and trace it back 600 years in England. At least 600 years in England. Yeah, anyway, it's gone on longer than I was expecting. Does anyone else want to throw anything in that chat before I maybe call this one a day? I don't know. Felt good to get back in the hot seat. I said I was gonna tell you, right? I've been getting into. Look at this. This is a beautiful, beautiful bottle. I'm gonna have it now. So I've been getting into whiskey as from an appreciation point of view. I never realized that whiskey was such an incredible drink. I was identified with my granddad, who used to drink Bell's whiskey, which was just cheap firewater, right? And then I discovered single malt, and this one in particular, which is called Lagavulin 16. Beautiful, beautiful drink. So yeah, I got myself a single malt, and I've been getting into whiskey as a cultural phenomenon of these islands, and the really interesting background. In Scotch. Cheers, everyone. This is a part of our identity. Aquavita, the water of life, as the monks used to call it when they first started distilling whiskey in the Middle Ages. It was regarded as a medicinal tonic. It's medicinal, all right. But what I found interesting is that in Scotland, for instance, it's now, one of Scotland's greatest exports. Billions of pounds come in a year from their ability to produce whiskey, but it was like, I think there's 140 distilleries in Scotland, and there's like some islands where there's like 20 distilleries on this tiny island, and the entire island is dedicated to producing whiskey, not just any whiskey, some of the best whiskey in the world, right? But it's the entire output of the island is dedicated to producing this incredible liquid. In the same way that, well, a bit different, but a lot of the pit mines in England and Britain, the whole identity, the whole town was around the mine. There was this one thing that pulled them all together, that they were all able to get behind. But imagine living in an island in Scotland and everyone's pulling together to produce this product, this liquid that everyone lives off. I found it just really fascinating stuff. So I've been getting into Scotch. I don't mind Irish whiskey. I like a bit of Jameson's, but that is a bit firewater. I use it I mix it with a few other things, but I haven't really got into Irish whiskey yet. I like American whiskey, bourbon or rye whiskey, and I like Japanese whiskey. I love Japanese whiskey. So they're my four favorites at the moment. Okay, so I think I'm going to call it a day there. I don't know when I'm going to do another one. I'm just going to press stream. I'm just going to press the big green button and not have to. I was speaking to my mum about it. She was saying, I was saying, if I have to prepare, if I have to, set things up and stuff, it just puts me off because it just turns into a big chore. If I can just press the button, if I can just press the button and just go into it, then I can definitely do that. I'd be interested in doing that. And I've just improvised this tonight. I haven't made any notes at all. It was just shot from the hip. Maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe that's the way to do it. You know, because it can become a workload in and of itself. And if it's just a hobby, you know, it's just something, I'm not doing it for any money, right? It's just something to do. Something to entertain me more than anything else. And it sure has. It sure has. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully next time. Thanks, Paul. Oh, there he is. Paul Farrar. Great spar of mine. And sound in the day. Sound in the life. Thanks, man. Yeah, the British won't be easily defeated. I mean, as grim and as dark and as bleak as it looks, it is fucking bleak, right? there's no sugarcoating it. It is bleak. But we are an indefatigable people. They'll never destroy us. Hello from France. Wow. Okay. And our French, Gaulish, Frankish brothers and sisters face the same challenge as us all in Western Europe. What's happening in Portugal at the moment is I'm still waiting on residency here, by the way. I've been 2 years waiting. Portuguese bureaucracy is very slow. But that was one of the reasons we came here, because it was like going back in time, and I wanted to go back in time. I wanted to go back 20 years in time, if you know what I mean, right? So that was like one of the issues that came up, is that the bureaucracy here is very, very slow and ancient. But even the Portuguese have recognized that the open borders is a big problem for them too. They're getting mass immigration from India. Their previous Prime Minister, Antonio Costa, was half Indian. And as you can imagine, he just flooded the gaff with Indians and Pakistanis. And if you look at, not that I've got a problem with those people, just, you know, everyone's looking for their own opportunity, aren't they? Right? But at some point, their opportunity comes face to face with yours, and you're fighting over territory, because that's all there is. There's only the turf underneath your feet. Regardless of politics, left, right, it's irrelevant, right? When it comes down to it, it's, have you got turf under your feet that is under your control? Good luck to everyone else who's trying to manipulate this simulation to suit them and to benefit their interest. But at some point, you have to push back and resist, right? It's human nature, it's a natural order, and we shouldn't even put politics into it. It's a survival instinct. So the Portuguese survival instinct kicked in. It's kicked in, right? And they've closed the border pretty much. They're raising up the drawbridge as quick as they can. And now they've changed citizenship from 5 years to 10 years. And I don't even agree with 10 years. I don't think they should be giving citizenship to anyone. Like the British shouldn't. We shouldn't be giving that out. It should take you 3 generations. 3 generations. And then you would be considered as assimilated and eligible for citizenship, as it used to be. As it used to be. Now, even the doctor of the church, I forgot his name, doctor of the church, is Thomas Aquinas. Thomas Aquinas, in his magnum opus, wrote quite specifically on immigration. And he said, you know, this is the rules. This is how it should be. To save the interests of the people who are already there. And one of them, he said something like, it takes 3 generations before you can be considered for citizenship. Because at that point, you're part of the community that you've joined. Anyway, the Portuguese have realized, not without precedent, if you remember, the Iberian Peninsula was under Islamic rule of the Moors for like 600 years. This is pretty much before Portugal and Spain even existed as countries. It was more like the Iberian Peninsula. And the Spanish and the Portuguese, as they were then, were pushed back right to the slither of land at the top of Spain and Portugal, right? This tiny little slither. And for 600 years below, the Moors conquered and put the Iberian Peninsula under Islamic rule. But they didn't give up. They didn't give up. And from this tiny slither of land is that the Spanish Christians and the Portuguese Christians, as they became Portuguese, they pushed them out. They literally pushed them out, town by town. The British Navy, the British-Portuguese military alliance is 650 years old. It's the oldest military alliance in the world. That's how long the British and the Portuguese have been fighting together. And when the Portuguese were trying to kick the Muslim horde out of Portugal, it was Lisbon that was the main target of liberation. And the Portuguese called upon the British Navy to help them. Well, and there were no British knights. That's how long ago it was. It was England. England sent over a group of knights to help the Portuguese put Lisbon under siege to kick the Moors out. And the siege went on for a while, and the Moors negotiated with the British and the Portuguese to say, okay, we'll leave under the condition that you won't attack us and you won't take our property. That was agreed. The Moors marched out of Lisbon and it was retaken by the Portuguese under the help of the British knights, English knights. Right? And that's how far back the English-Portuguese alliance goes, and was part of the Reconquista, which was the reconquesting of Spain and Portugal. So even though it looks bleak in England and Britain, and it is bleak, never give up. We can push back from a tiny, tiny slither of land. Because empires can stretch too far, right? Is that normally empires will usually fall because they stretch too far. And the center of power is so far away that maintaining supply, whether it's ideological supply, whether it's physical supply of men, with food, drink, water, whatever, right, becomes quite difficult. So for those who are currently trying to make our land theirs, fair enough. It's the iron law of conquest. You know, it's as the iron law of conquest is like the iron law of gravity. It's above and beyond politics. It's above and beyond ideology. It just is the way of life. It's an iron law. So those who seek currently to make our land theirs have to face the ultimate idea that we've got nowhere else to go. So we're in the corner, right? So there'll always be some level of pushback at some point in which there'll be a real test, a big test, an actual test of who actually controls the land. And that's coming, isn't it? Without doubt, that's coming. Yeah. So whereabouts in France are you? Moderand? Apologies for mangling your beautiful French name. I'm from a very small town called Kirby, in which we didn't learn pronunciation above and beyond very specific Scouse vernacular. I feel like Del Boy. When I try and speak French, I feel like Del Boy. Hello, John. John Lynch. I haven't seen you in ages, John. How you doing, buddy? How is Smithdown Road? John Lynch, very old friend of mine. When I used to live on Smithdown Road, Smithdown Road is like about 3 miles south of Liverpool city centre. I spent 25 years there. Many, many, many stories and adventures went on from that house. John was a witness and a participant and accomplice. Accomplice is probably the best word to call you, John. Accomplice in such fights for land. That's what I did there in Smithdown Road. I lived in a place called Wellington Fields, in which I put up a major struggle against the ruling oligarchy of UK, who are not English and who think that they have some kind of right over our land other than what it really is tyranny. And they don't want to admit it's tyranny, of course, right? They try to think it's law, right, and stuff. So we challenged that assumed right and caused major problems for them. Major problems for them. And John was there. John was one of my knights. Yeah, cool. But I haven't been back there for a long time. I spent 25 years there in Smithdown Road, and I loved it. I loved the house. I loved that. Yeah, the old legendary times, John, they certainly were. It's still legendary down there. I'm English living in Beaujolais. Whoa. I think I pulled that one off. I have a Scouse family and love hearing your accent. I hope my accent is a little bit softer. If I was talking to my friends like John right now, I don't think you would understand the word we say, which it's like a blessing and a curse. Liverpool accent is a blessing and a curse. I'd say it's probably more of a curse. What do you... It's Mo. Oh, is that Mo? Oh. Scottish Mo. Oh, no, she's English. Different Mo. Yeah. Beaujolais. I'm gonna expose my ignorance here and not know where Beaujolais is, but fortunately, thanks to being fast on the old interwebs, southwest France, Bordeaux, even. Ooh, I went to Bordeaux once. I drove through it when I was driving from UK to Portugal. Didn't like it. Got a bad, weird vibe from driving through the city. Felt a bit, one of those places that felt like tense. Definitely felt tense. I wanted to get out and go and drink some Bordeaux wine and stuff near Lyon. Okay, well, where's Lyon then? Lyon is the other side, isn't it? I thought Lyon was on the east. Yeah, Lyon's on the east. You know, me talking about Bordeaux. She's not even anywhere near Bordeaux. Yeah, I've got a friend who lives near Lyon as well. Georgette. Quite far from Bordeaux, yeah, totally. Literally the other side of France. It's like mixing up Liverpool with Hull. Yeah. Okay, well, I think I've run my course now. I think I've exhausted all of the improvisation that I can come up with. Keep your eyes open. I'm not going to do any promo or any marketing or anything like that. I'm just going to press stream. And that's the way I think I'll enjoy it. If you click the bell, I think you get a notification. I don't know what you do. I don't particularly want to know. I'm determined not to get, because I go balls deep in this shit, right? I was like, when I was doing the podcast, I got fucking balls deep in like understanding YouTube algorithms, all that. It just fucking consumes your life. So I've decided I'm not going to do that because I enjoyed this bit, but all of the other bullshit is that it all turns into a massive chore and doesn't make you any fucking money. Right? Not that motivates me, but at some point, there's only so much time you can give to a hobby, to a fucking very expensive hobby. Okay, gonna hit the road. Good evening. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate giving me something to feed off and to talk about. Until the next time, see you soon, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye.